We're here to rack some mead. That's transfer the mead from one container to another. This is the fermentation container right here where I started the mead. This is my primary fermentation. The racking cane and wand have been cleaned and sanitized. This 3-gallon carboy has been cleaned and sanitized as well. Lid comes off. This goes in part way because there's a yeast cake down here. The yeast has flocculated to the bottom and I don't want to suck up the yeast cake. So I'm about right here. About right there. Now this has a spring at the bottom, a spring tip. So I need to press it down in order for the mead to come out. That can be a little tricky. I got to get it between my knees and just put a little pressure on it. Just to start the siphoning process. Here we go. I believe we got a siphon going. At that point, I can lift this thing right out of here and it will stop. That's the point of the spring-loaded tip. Now I'm going to fill up my little tester tube here so that we can check the specific gravity in a little bit. And we'll get a taste. I always taste. I like to know what mead tastes like throughout the whole process. Some meads are quite good after 2 weeks or 3 weeks. While they're still young, they have a little sweetness. And then they start to taste funny after a couple of months. Maybe they don't taste very good at all. Maybe they get super dry. But then as time goes on, about 9 months is when the magic starts to happen. And at about 1 year, year and a half, some pretty amazing things happen. And that pretty soon the sweetness of the honey starts to come back. It's a perception of sweetness because the specific gravity might be low. It might be dry as a bone mead. But there seems to be a perception of sweetness that comes back, and it can be really amazing. This is a sizer. When I made this mead, I added apple juice. That was from when we made my wife. Well, I actually helped this year make applesauce with my mom and my wife. Homemade applesauce, and we saved the juice so that we can drink some of it like it is, and the rest I use in mead making. Any apple additions make mead a sizer, C-Y-S-E-R. It looks nice and clear going into the big carboy here. Super clear because it's been sitting for 2 months. We don't like to have it sit too long on the lees because it can pick up odd flavors from the lees. Some people actually age their mead on the lees. That's called sur-lie aging, and they feel like it benefits the mead. In some cases where there's certain kinds of yeast or whatever, they do sur-lie aging. I have never done that. I'm slowly lowering the tip so that it's right here. It stays about halfway between the surface of the mead and the lees. Eventually I'll have to tip the container so that I can keep it in the liquid. As soon as that thing sucks air, the siphoning stops immediately, and that's a bummer if you're not quite ready for it to stop. I also want to fill this jug up, carboy up to about the shoulders at least. I don't want a whole lot of airspace. Air is your enemy in the making of mead. Initially, we need air to have a good fermentation, but soon after fermentation begins, within that first week, no more air, please. No more oxygen. You see it? And up about there. Boy, it looks gorgeous. It's so clear already. Beautiful. After I tipped it, I raised up the wand a little bit. Just so I don't suck up that lees very much. A little bit I'll get, I'll bet, but I don't want very much. Since it's been sitting in here in the primary fermentation container for 2 months, that yeast cake is pretty solid. This is Lelven brand yeast. Borgovin RC212 is the yeast I used in this mead. Original gravity 1.100. It's one of my favorite starting gravities for most of my meads. So my guess is the gravity will be about 1.000 today. Let's see if I'm right. I also have a hunch that this is going to taste pretty good today already. I like to get as much of the mead as I can without sucking up the lees. But I try not to be greedy. If I get greedy, then I get too much of the lees, and then it defeats the purpose of racking the mead. If I stop and leave mead in the jug, in the fermentation container, I often will pour that into another jug. I got one started here, right here. I don't know if you can see that one I just touched with my foot. I mixed a whole bunch of meads in there, just whatever leftovers I got, pour it in that jug, and I'll put that in a cool room, or maybe out on the screen porch where it's nice and cold. That'll make all the lees settle right to the bottom quickly. Sometimes those mixed meads, just from all the different meads I was racking that day, sometimes those mixes are pretty good. Now we're getting close to sucking air here, so I'm going to tip it again. I'm real close to sucking up the lees, so I might quit. Alright. I'm in the air there, so I lift this up immediately. As soon as this tip hits the air, is out of the liquid, I lift up this tip so that I don't get bubbles. Yeah, I see cloudiness coming down. I've been sucking up the lees a little bit. I'm tapping it to the side there, depressing that spring. I should, since it's not clear anymore, I'll just put it right back into this jug. Need a little more elevation. I've been needing more elevation my whole life. There we go. Alright. That drained the tube. That completes the racking. Looks pretty good. We're up to the shoulders. I'd like it a little bit higher ideally, but I'm not worried about it. After we check specific gravity, I'll pour this into there. And then we're going to plug the top with a bung with an airlock in it so that it can age for about 2 months, maybe 4 months before I rack again. Hydrometer going in. Gotta have a hydrometer if you're going to make mead. Check the gravity when you start. Check it all the way through each racking. 1.1000. Yes! I was right on the money with my guess. I love it. Alright, now a taste. Smells like very mild. Yeah, it's good already. Very mild, very little throat burn at all. Even though it's pretty good alcohol content to go from 1.100 specific gravity originally to 1.000. I'd have to look at my chart to see what that is, but that's pretty good alcohol content already. And you can't tell it. But that Borgovin RC212 yeast makes a real mild mead, mild flavored I was going to say, but it's just generally a very mild mead. It's like Kool-Aid with a kick. That's pretty good already. I'm excited to see what that mead turns into. If it's that good now, I try not to pour it directly in. I try and bank it off the neck so that it doesn't make bubbles in there and bring air into the mead. All parts sanitized. Got water in the airlock. Lid's going on the airlock. And we'll slip it into the bung here. Secured in place so no air can get in there. We're in good shape. Thanks for watching, folks. That's how we rack mead. We're looking forward to the next taste test in a couple of months when we rack it again. See everybody. Thanks for watching.